When we talk about cnMaestro configuration, we generally break up the activities into 3 groups. First, day 0. That's when we pre-configure all of the devices and all the networks. The second is day 1. That's the day we install the products on site. And day 2 is, well, any time after that. That's the time when we troubleshoot, we diagnose, we check status, we make sure the network is always operating. There are 3 videos that cover these 3 days, and this video is day 2.
This is configuring cnMaestro day 2. Recall that in day 0, we pre-adopted all the access points, pre-configured the network, and pre-assigned all the sites. In day 1, we were able to monitor the access points as they come online, verify the configuration, and verify operating parameters. Now in day 2, these are activities that you can do anytime that you want to check the status of the network and make sure it's operating efficiently in the way you designed it. This could be at the end of day 1, it could be day 10, day 100, or day 1000. Anytime you want to check the status of the network. We're going to begin by logging on to our cloud.cambiumnetworks.com account. And once we've logged in, we're going to get our dashboard. So where to start? Let's go ahead and start here with Monitor Network. That works well. And when we do that, we're going to see the very high-level view. We're going to check our alarm status, and we see that alarms look good. No critical, major, or minor alarms. Our recommended software, again, also looks fine as well. So let's go ahead and scroll down. Nothing really jumps out as a particular problem. We can look at sites. Let's take a look at our AP groups. Now recall, we created 3 AP groups for the same site. Now the reason we did 3 is because each group of APs could have its own unique set of operating parameters. It could have custom configurations like different WLANs assigned to them, or they could have different RF operating parameters, different ways in which we want them to optimize for the RF environment. So by creating 3 different groups, we've actually created 3 different operating groups of access points, but they all intercoordinate, interoperate amongst each other, and belong to the same site. Now we've installed an access point in what we call the Office AP group. Let's go ahead and drill down there, and we'll click on APs along the top menu bar, and there's our access point here. Let's drill into that and start taking a look around. So we notice right off the bat, we see that our sync status is in sync, so the configuration is fine, nothing has changed. That's what we expect. If we click on details at the top, let's start here. Now the first thing I always look at, of course, is the RF quality. So we're still doing fine here at 80%. When I was monitoring this network last night during high traffic times in this neighborhood, I saw the RF quality on the 2.4 gigahertz dip as low as about 54%, 53%. So it will change under times of high network utilization and high neighbor interference. So that's something you'll want to take a look at. Keep an eye on it. If you suspect that you might have interference, this is where the first place you're going to look. Our number of interferes is really low. Here, only 5. Last night when I was taking a look at this, I was seeing about 18 to 20 sources of interference, and of course it was reflective in the RF quality dip as well. And the noise floor, -92 is beautiful for a 2.4 gig radio. So this is looking really good. Let's take a look at the neighbor list. Now a quick tip here, we can scan the 2.4 gig and the 5 gig bands and see all of the neighbor APs. But this information will only be displayed if you have enabled the auto RF function, which in our case, we did do that. So here's the data. All right, so we can sort by SNR, change the sort table so that the strongest signals are at the top. And you can see I've got some Xfinity Wi-Fi here. So Xfinity Wi-Fi, lots of Xfinity signals here on the 5 gig radio. At 2.4, let's take a look at that as well. And again, there's an Xfinity popping up at -62. And so let's just take a look at this. These aren't too bad. You notice I only have a couple of radios. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 4 radios that are stronger than -65. That's not a lot. That really is a very lightly utilized neighbor here. Same thing in the 5 gigahertz. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sources of interference that are at neg 65 or stronger. Not a lot of interference. Let's drill into this a bit further. Let's take a look at the Tools menu. Now, under Tools, there's one thing I want to start off with. And anytime that I want to take a look at my network, I'll start right here. And I will start with this Download Tech Support files. Now, these tech support files are actually going to be everything. Let's go ahead and see if we can find those files, okay? Let me go ahead and drag this over here. All right, so here's our folder with all of our that we just downloaded. Now, there's 2 subfolders. One says Files, the other says Commands. Under Files, you could look at Mount, Slash, Config, and config.txt. This will be the full configuration text file for the access point, everything you need to know. There's also another place within the cnMaestro management system where you can download this particular file. I won't go over that now. I'll leave that for you to it's a homework assignment for you. You can try to find it on your own. So let's go back to the commands folder. This is a folder I like. If I could remember every command that I would possibly want to run on a network to see the status of the network and how it's operating, the access point that is, this is the command I would use right here. One of these commands are the ones I would use. You'll see everything possible is in here. So nice thing is I don't have to remember the commands because they're all right here. Show client stats, all right here. Let's take a look at show auto RF interference. Now in this file, okay, so here's all my channels, my 2.4 gig channels, and all of my 5 gig channels. So let's take a look and see what we can see. All right, we notice that on channel 11, we have a high number of access points. We're showing 16 APs, and neg 51 is our RSSI, our signal level, our interference level on channel 11. So 11 is a lot of contention there on channel 11. Channel 1 looks pretty good, only 968, so very low signal. Channel 6, same thing, neg 74, even lower signal at channel 6. So 1 or 6 would be fine channels to operate on for this network, very, very low interference. On the 5 gigahertz, we can see some, look here, we can see some energy here on 36. I tell you what, let's not look at this file anymore. Let's look at all this information from the GUI. Anyway, as you can see, any commands that you would normally want to run are right there in the download tech support files. Debug is basically just a screen capture of all the kernel messages and logs that are right from the console. Developers use that quite a bit. I don't use that myself very much. Packet capture. I will do a wireless LAN packet capture from time to time. Set the count on the capture, and this is basically a screen dump of what's happening there on the access point itself. Network connectivity. I don't use these very much, but you can ping, DNS lookup, trace route. Now, Wi-Fi analyzer. This is kind of neat. It'll actually give you nice visualizations. This is easier to read than a text file, isn't it? You'll notice on the 2.4 gig, we have that very characteristic wave shape pattern. Now, the reason we see this wave shape pattern is because on the 2.4 gig band, when there's energy, say, for example, on channel 6, it actually covers, produces band edge energy from channel 4 all the way up to channel 8. So there's your distinctive pattern with the center frequency at 6. Same thing when energy is on 11, it bleeds down into 9, and 1 bleeds into 3. So we look at the number of APs. You can see again, channel 11 is our most utilized in terms of both interference and number of APs. 5 gigahertz. Let's find out what we can see here. Now you can also run these scans at any time you want, even during data operation. It will not interrupt with a data traffic flow on your network when you run a scan at the same time. So you don't have to do this in the middle of the night. You can do it in the middle of the day. Now this is interesting. You'll notice here we've got some energy on 52 and 56. These are, of course, the DFS channels. We have lots of gaps here at 40, 48, lots of open space for these networks. It was quite interesting because last night when I was looking at this, there was a lot of energy on channel 48, and a lot of that was my most heavily utilized band was channel 48. And it looks like those have all moved to channel 44 in the last day. But you can see here where your best operating channels will be. 165 is very good. 157. All these upper bands low energy, low levels of interference across all these upper bands. Lots of space up there to operate, and of course some gaps down here at 40 and 48, and of course most of your DFS channels available as well. So you can see that the 5 gigahertz network in this area is lightly utilized. Lots of room to operate with little errors or little to no errors at all. So there's a little tip. So there's some of those things that we look at, what we call day 2, to look at the operating parameters, particularly focusing on the RF performance and the RF characteristics. Now, why do we focus so much on the RF? It's because the RF is the part of the network that is most subject to contention and sources of interference. The Ethernet connections, they don't have that problem. So it's the Wi-Fi network we worry about the most. That's part of the network that is most subject to interference and changing dynamic conditions throughout the day. So take a look at these tips. Status, of course, your debug files are nice, your Wi-Fi analyzer files, and then don't forget about those tech support dump files. Thank you for watching.